Thank you again. I would like to thank David Shine, Channel Manager for Zebra, who is with us today, traveled from South Africa. And he will talk about Zebra. We've got some products also at the back of this room. And my name is V. Partager. I'm the Managing Director of Cybernaptics. I would like to spend time just to present ourselves, to introduce Cybernaptics, what we do. The agenda for today is to do an overview of who we are, and then I will hand over to David Shine to talk about Zebra. We'll take some questions, and then we'll break for coffee, and then we'll have the main speaker, the product specialist, Thomas Duval, who is the healthcare lead at Zebra, who will be doing his presentation. He will be coming in remotely for this presentation, and also he will be taking questions from the audience. This is a first for us because we haven't actually done any event on healthcare, but I would say that traceability, if there's something that defines Cybernaptics, I would say it's traceability. Although we have been very focused on traceability in ports and logistics, transport, warehousing, container movement in and out of the port. We were born in the free port. We've been working with a number of industries through the free port, retail sector, fast-moving consumer goods, alcohol, cigarettes, pharmaceuticals as well. But today the focus really is on healthcare as an industry. So Cybernaptics is 15 years old, and as I said, if there is one thing I would like to, one word that would define Cybernaptics is traceability, anything to do with coding and identification. Today, we are a Mauritian company. We are based in Mauritius, our head office in Mauritius. But I'm very pleased to say that the last few years we have initiated an expansion in the region, and we have Cybernaptics Madagascar in Madagascar, and also Cybernaptics Kenya based in Nairobi. Key moments in our history. We started in 2009, and then in 2019 we launched Cyber Skills, which is our training institution. We opened an office in Kenya in 2021. The timing was a bit unlucky there because COVID didn't help us. So we had to go through that COVID phase really to start our operations normally. And 2023, we opened an office in Madagascar. The country lead for Madagascar is somewhere in this the beach, but I think it's probably outside. Also in 2023, we've launched Algorithmics. Algorithmics is a robotics process automation platform for helping companies to automate some back office processes. For example, we have a strong focus on the financial industry, where we automate, for example, KYC for banks and offshore companies. So I like to describe the company in terms of our revenue services, where we actually earn our living. The first revenue stream is IT managed services, where we provide professional support services, consulting services, IT audits, and cybersecurity. So it's mostly professional service. IT infrastructure is the hardware aspect of our work, where we provide all manners of IT infrastructure. Traceability and mobility, all the hardware device that you see at the back falls under the IT infrastructure, but I would say that our strength is not just selling hardware, but selling services around the hardware. That is what makes the hardware interesting. So, for example, on the third revenue stream is business apps and consulting. I talked about RPA, robotics process automation. It's an emerging field now which is becoming mainstream. You've all heard of ChatGPT, but there are other tools that we leverage, that we bring onto the platform called Algorithmics to make solutions available to our clients. Because not everybody has a pool of qualified software developers or IT specialists who can leverage those tools for the company. Some companies, they just want to have the services, they just want to use the services. And so we bring that to them through a shared platform. Data analytics, of course, using Power BI and Click technologies is one aspect of our work. And then ERP, for 10 years we've been focused on mainly Microsoft Dynamics 365. It used to be called Navision and is now renamed Business Central. As I said, we don't just sell hardware, but we integrate those hardware with back office operation. So we have a team of software developers, and we have the skills. For example, if a customer buys a product from us and he needs those products to be communicating with his back end, he may not have the software development resources for doing the integration, then we help him. And it also adds value on the services that we provide. For example, the beauty with Zebra products, for example, today, is that if you go on the Zebra website, you will see a lot of documentation for developers for their products. It's very easy to integrate. They've got well-documented APIs, which means that if you buy the software, irrespective of what kind, if you buy the hardware, irrespective of what kind of hospital management system you're using, irrespective of what kind of lab management system you're using, most probably you will be able to integrate if you're using Zebra. Cybersecurity, of course, an important aspect of our work, which is getting even more and more relevant these days. So, security managed services. We do pen tests for companies who are subjected to compliance, for example, from the Bank of Mauritius or the Financial Services Commission, vulnerability assessment, and of course, ISO and audits. Contracting for installations, wireless installation, fiber optics, CCTV, Internet of Things solutions. This is handled by the contracting team. I talked about cyber skills, who is involved in training. They've got quite a substantial training portfolio now. And which brings me to traceability and barcoding. So this is the main topic for the day, as I said. And I've attempted a little definition of traceability, which is a sort of textbook traceability. And it refers to the ability to track and trace the history, location, and movement of items or assets throughout their life cycle within the supply chain of a system. I want to point out that traceability here is quite different from GPS. Because sometimes when in our line of business, we say that we do traceability, people say, oh, so it means that you can track a vehicle or you track people using GPS. Geolocation is a different field. Here, traceability is mostly about encoding information. In Mauritius, for example, if you go to the public hospital, or even the pharmacy, and even private sector, you will see people always using pen and paper. They will write prescriptions on paper, they will do dispensing on paper. For example, nurses in the hospital will bring the little tablets in a little cup, and then just pop the pill in the patient's mouth. But there's no traceability because everything is relies on someone writing down on a sheet of paper. And this is not how modern healthcare works. And one of the objectives of this workshop today is to try to sensitize people on the need to have automated systems for several reasons, which are listed here. For example, the first one is inventory management, where you can maintain very accurate tracking of stock levels. And I think I cannot emphasize this enough for a private hospital or a public hospital, because they handle millions of rupees worth of inventory. And if you go, for example, to the pharmacy of Congress, the public hospital, you can actually, get your medication from the pharmacy, but there's no system of dispensing, which means that there's no record of inventory of how much products there is in stock, how much is being dispensed, how much is left, and therefore without proper inventory, you have no idea, for example, what is your stock level. And that is probably the problem is compounded for products that are subjected to short shelf lifetime. Vaccine is a good example, because if you don't manage your inventory properly, you run the risk of having those medications just expired and they need to be destroyed. So inventory management is one important aspect of traceability applied also in the medical system, but that's not just medical. It also applies to retail, to manufacturing, to different industries. Quality assurance, to identify products' origins and ensure compliance with safety and quality standards. I come back to dispensing. If you see, for example, here, like let's say a nurse giving medication to a patient, without proper traceability, there's always a risk that the wrong medication is being given to the patient, because it's done manually or using pen and paper. Whereas if you go to a hospital, let's say in Europe, you will find that the nurse always carries a scanner. And before products are dispensed, he or she will scan the patient's barcode, okay? And then he will scan the barcode on the medication, because those two are actually married together in the patient file. And if ever you are administering the wrong medication to that patient, you get a beep or you get an error. And we know that errors, for example, in the medical field, can have very serious consequences. So we're hoping that we will be seeing more and more medical dispensing through traceability systems in Mauritius. Product recalls also, for example, if there is a problem with a batch of medicine, usually the batch, the lot number, the expiry date is encoded in either QR code or barcode. And if there is some faulty medication, let's say on the shelf in the pharmacy somewhere, you scan those barcodes, and if it's been properly encoded, you can go back to the importer, and the importer can report it to the manufacturer, pinpointing the exact manufacturing batch and lot number where the problem arose. So product recall is very important in the health sector. Loss prevention, we will talk a little bit about it in more details when we come to asset tracking. And generally, supply chain optimization. For example, if information is encoded, then it can be reused. You know, all too often, sometimes you go to hospital, and the first thing you do is you have a card system where they will ask all kinds of information that they need to put on the card, and then maybe at some point you need to go for X-rays. There's another series of information, and sometimes the same information is asked repeatedly. You may have to do lab tests. Again, you need to give your name, you need to give all that. Information is just being repeated. Whereas if it's codified properly, then, and you have a system that manages it in the back end, then that information can be reused throughout the patient's journey. So barcode, everybody is familiar. Most of us probably will be familiar with the EAN barcoding. There are a number of symbologies for barcodes. The EAN barcoding symbology is used in retail. So that's the kind of barcode you would have on products in supermarket. But there are different types of barcodes for different applications. For example, for pharmaceutical, they use code 39. So this is also, as I said, part of our expertise. We can advise clients in terms of what kind of symbologies, what kind of encoding will be appropriate for them. Now we have 1D barcode, we have 2D barcode, the QR code, I think you're all familiar. The main difference between those two types of encoding is bandwidth, because the amount of information you can encode in the stripes is limited, whereas the amount of information you can encode in the 2D barcode is much higher. So there's a lot of information you can compact in a QR code that you wouldn't be able to encode in a 1D barcode. So I'll talk briefly about some case studies. How am I doing about the time? I'm good? Okay, good. So, asset tracking, we have a few case studies in the medical field. Well, one of our clients for asset tracking is Royal Green Hospital here, and I'll invite you to just watch this little video. Oops. Thanks.
Valerie is an operations manager at a telecom service provider. With offices across the country and multiple retail stores servicing customers. In her everyday work, she faces many challenges, the most complex being managing the assets in all the offices spread out geographically. Tracking and managing assets is not easy, especially when they frequently get updated manually. The complexity of asset management keeps growing as the company acquires more assets. This can lead to lots of complex paperwork, errors, losing track of assets, failing to upgrade them, inventory and auditing of assets, faulty assets, and managing obsolete and damaged hardware. Asset management is one of the most ignored processes of any company, and it can lead to considerable losses if not implemented well. Asset management includes the following processes: planning asset requirements, asset acquisition or creation, operations and maintenance, asset monitoring, asset depreciation, disposal. Maintaining a vast record of these processes and assets requires a sizable team and a large database which needs to be updated regularly. Valerie implements the Target Asset Management System, a full-featured asset management system that can track every physical asset of the company. It can be a piece of furniture, IT equipment, vehicles, or any other tangible assets. Target is a full-fledged solution that is used to track and manage assets using sleek handhelds, rugged devices, or RFID sleds. Valerie can now tag all equipment with a QR code, barcode, or RFID label, and use handheld scanners to scan the assets. With Target, Valerie can now perform the following tasks with ease. Maintain a real-time and detailed inventory. Assignment of assets. Asset tagging and mapping. Asset transfer and movement. Track depreciation and warranty of assets. Track scheduled maintenance and repairs. Scrap and sale of assets. Role-based access control. Generate reports. Asset auditing. Target performs asset management and helps in automated tracking, thereby making record keeping and managing audits simple. Simply tag the assets and perform inventory scans to generate instant audit reports. Log and schedule upcoming maintenance. Fill maintenance report, update timesheet, and upload pictures if necessary. With Target, Valerie now has better visibility of assets, better optimization of its usage, and better savings on the procurement. Target, the one-stop asset management solution for every enterprise.
So that was our first case study. The second one are patient traceability wristbands. So these are special wristbands that, for example, the patient can have in the shower, and it's wipeable also. If you've got blood on it, you can wipe it with detergent, and it's popular use in hospitals all around the world. Here, I'm happy to say that CCare uses those wristbands. Usually, these wristbands, so they will have a barcode on it, which will be the patient ID, and that will actually be linked to the hospital management information system, and also lab information system. Labels, printing for sample tubes and other medical products. One of our clients is the Countess Hospital. So we have an interesting anecdote for that, those products that we installed, because that was during COVID. And that was the first phase. It was for the COVID testing lab. And all the staff were scared to actually go and install it, because at the time we didn't really know what COVID was going to be like. There was a lot of apprehension about the infection. So, but luckily, eventually, we got a few people in the team to go face their fears, and of course it was under controlled conditions, and we installed it for the COVID testing lab at Congress. Otherwise, there's some other company like IDEA, Life Together, and Natec Medical who are taking printers and supplies from us. So those label supplies, there are different types, as I said, and medical supplies, they tend to be specialized in the sense that they are subject to, for example, water, because they might be subjected to, for patients, they will be expected to communicate as well. Tags, for example, on medical assets can be subjected to wiping, because surfaces are regularly cleaned in the hospital or in clinics, so all these need to be taken into consideration when you are purchasing equipment or you're purchasing supplies. You will also notice at the back that there are a few devices, well, most devices used in healthcare, as far as scanners and the handheld devices are concerned, are white. I don't know if anybody could say what would be the reason why these equipment tend to be white. Yeah. Well, it's white for the simple reason that if there is any contamination, for example, blood or some other kind of fluids, it's easily seen and it can be subjected to wiping. Because, again, everything needs to be squeaky clean in a medical environment. So you will see that those devices that are designed for the healthcare industry, they tend to be white, and also they are made with a casing that is resistant to quite strong detergents because of frequent wiping. So as I said, we don't just sell hardware, we provide the services for integration with the hospital management information system, laboratory information system, and also data interchange. For example, if operators, let's say hospital, need to exchange information with his supplier of medical products. We've done that for a number of pharmaceutical operators in the Freeport, where data is exchanged electronically. Again, to avoid manual intervention. Because in the medical field, you don't want people to make errors or transcription errors when they are communicating medical information. I think with that, currently I've reached the end, and I think I'm almost on time.
Top 30 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for your attention. So I hand over to you.
All right, so good morning, everyone. My name is Divesh Naika. I'm the head of channel for Zebra Africa. What that entails is that we as an OEM, we let our partners and our distributors push our products into the market in a very strategic way. So my team oversees our distributors and channel partners across the African continent. Cybernaptics is one of our key partners within the Indian Ocean Islands and now in certain new markets that we are working in at the moment. First, I'd like to take the time to thank Cybernaptics and her for making all of this possible and giving us the opportunity to present ourselves in this market. It not only strengthens our our partnership, but it also shows our commitment to the market itself. So with that, I'm going to take you through a journey of who Zebra is. If I have to ask a lot of you in the room if you have heard of Zebra before, and the question is, the answer a lot of the time comes back to us. A lot of people don't know the product. Because it's behind the scenes, you don't get to see it. But I can tell you, in some sort of way or the other, you would have interacted with our product in the market. Whether you went out to a retail store, or whether you went out into a healthcare facility, or whether the garment that you're wearing has been touched by the Zebra product in some way or form. And if we had to look at it from a market size, 98% of the Fortune 500 utilizes Zebra. So no matter what the industries are, I will be covering a few value drivers today, which will take you through many verticals, but in those verticals, you will see how the healthcare sector comes into it as well. I will then lead on to give you a quick overview on some of the products that we deliver into the market, but those are just the core products. We have many, many more technologies, and I will touch base. I'll make reference to some use cases. I'll make reference to some of the companies that we are working with in certain organizations. And in Thomas, who will be delivering the healthcare messaging, I will leave most of the healthcare stuff to him. The content will be delivered by him. So before I go into why Zebra, take you through our journey and discuss, how do we come about, I would like to just play a quick video.
The world's more complicated than ever. There are trillions of objects embedded in sensors. From everything from parts and components, wristbands in hospitals, to football equipment. These sensors generate huge amounts of data,
giving us incredible insight
into how things work. We can understand the world in ways that we never could before. It's a vast infusion of knowledge. The question is, what will we do with it all? How do we change our business and take advantage of all these advances in software and analytics?
In computing power, how do we apply all this innovation? How do we build our systems the right way?
How do you prepare a business for things that haven't been invented yet?
For that, you need a zebra.
See, the zebra knows not just where things are going, but what condition they're in.
Is the medicine stored at the right temperature?
Is the shipment missing a pallet? Is the delivery cold enough, warm enough, fresh enough, safe enough? You want to know where the world's going?
Want to know where the world's going?
Want to know where the world's going?
Follow the zebra.
So as I said, you would have touched a product in some way or form in your daily life. It's just that you don't see as we go along. So what gives rise to the information that we are starting to collect? So we are starting to work with a new consumer that is fueling the on-demand economy. And organizations are starting to see this and are wanting to innovate even further. And how do they do this? They need to start looking at real-time information. And this is where we're starting to look at devices, and the devices that we are providing is collecting data on the edge. Now, what is more important is to identify where do you see the touch points of collecting the data. It's where products are produced. So we are looking at from raw materials. We are looking at whether it's putting garments together by manufacturing of cotton. It's looking at where sales are made. If you have to look at a retail environment, you want to see a sales associate carrying a device. It is having a sales associate that is connected, having the right information in their hands. You're looking at where orders are shipped. In a facility, a distribution facility, you wanted to see when an order has been shipped and when you can expect delivery. So you're starting to see this optimization in operations. You're starting to look at how patients are treated. So this is where devices start to make to become more and more relevant. And if you had to look at it historically, when we looked at the earlier days of an ERP solution, this is where it all started. Organizations will collect the data and insert it into an ERP. That information is then analyzed and providing that organization with that information. But then it is not in real time. When we start to look into modern days, into systems of reality, this is where we start to see the core as being the organizations, and this is where we start to collect the data. Looking at all the information that is coming in through the data, through the devices that we are providing for these organizations. Then the information is then analyzed and is then really brought into the markets to provide actionable insights for organizations. They become more agile in the markets, they become more understanding of consumers, of the operations, and how to drive more innovations into those organizations. So when you start to look at where they're going to be gaining performance, you look at the different verticals that we start to work with. Let's look at, we look at the hospitality sector. We're starting to see how information is passed around in the kitchen with inventory management solutions, real-time information of when you can start to see, expiry dates. You can start to look at expiry dates before, before time, and start to make the relevant actions to sell those products. You look at modernizations of warehouse and distribution centers and e-commerce demands. We're starting to look at the retail environments. Now remember, for us, retail is huge because retailers are coming to Zebra and requesting how can we increase our basket size. If you look at the US markets at the moment, shrinkage in stores are becoming so relevant. I mean, just earlier this year when we were at National Retail Federation, we walked into a Walgreens, toothpastes and toothbrushes are now behind locks. It's because of the high shrinkage, and now those retailers are starting to look at us. How can we resolve those issues? Looking at the healthcare sector, and which is obviously what we're going to be speaking about today a lot about, it's about how do we increase the bed turns, improving safety in the hospitals. Improving safety in the hospitals is quite key for us because when we start to do the studies, over 160,000 deaths are caused through incorrect medications given or administered to patients. So that's why traceability, as Rod said, is so important in today's current markets. I'm going to start looking into why Zebra. So, as I said, we're going to ask the room, no matter where we go, do you know Zebra? People that first interactions. A lot of them will tell us, no, we don't know Zebra. But as I said, behind the scenes, we have been working extensively. I will take you through the journey and where Zebra has come from in the next slide. But for now, I just want to touch on, we've been in existence for over 53 years. We're almost a $5 billion company. We've got over 10,000 employees across the globe through our acquisitions, bringing on new employees. And we are a very channel-centric organization. The channel is the most important part into our organization. 100% of all opportunities delivered into our markets in the African continent is delivered through our channel network. When you start to look at our where we're playing from a leader status, we are number one in rugged mobile computing. That's the handheld devices that you see. Our ruggedized tablets, those are enterprise ruggedized tablets. We are number one in data capture solutions, all our scanning solutions. Through the acquisitions, Zebra was able to bring in the full auto identification vertical into its portfolio. We start to look at barcode printing. Back in the day, that was Zebra was known for, a printing company. But through the acquisitions, we were able to add in all the other elements to it. And then mobile RFID. We are rated number one in Gartner, with Gartner for indoor locating, and I'll touch base on some of the location solutions that we bring. We pride ourselves with our people. Our average tenure in our organization is 12 years. I'm in Zebra for almost 10 years. We're sitting to, last week we attended with we had a management strategy session. And around the table, when we asked 85 of the guys that were there, the average day in that was 17 years, 10 years. So it shows that, we've got a workforce that loves to do what they do and continue to innovate. As I said, we pride ourselves with our channel. We are a very channel-centric organization. We've got one of the most advanced channel programs in the market, and we continue to drive that further to make sure that our partners are profitable and providing them with the right information and technology to drive their solutions. So, the journey of Zebra started in 1969 as a data specialties, and we were predominantly a hardware-centric organization. I want to fast forward to 2014 when Zebra went out to market, Zebra Technologies, and they looked at Motorola's enterprise business. At that time, the business was up for sale, and Zebra was 1/3 the size of Motorola. So the markets reacted very negative to that news in 2014, but they did not see the vision that Zebra had to work with its competition out in the market, which had a full broad portfolio of all the other products. Zebra went ahead and acquired Motorola Solutions. As we start to move forward into the acquisition, we start to see a lot of innovation starting to happen. We saw in 2017 the creating of our intelligence platform, or what we'll call our data lake, which is Savannah. We saw Explore tablets. Instead of going and doing a whole lot of research and development and creating ultra ruggedized tablets, we decided to go out and buy one of the organizations was quite well known for ruggedized tablets and incorporated it into our portfolio. We started to work further into 2019. We started to look at other companies like Partager, which was prescriptive analytics, being able to tell you what you need to be doing next in order to streamline your processes within your businesses. We looked at temp time. Temp time is what we're going to talk about today a lot when it comes to labels and supplies, intelligent labels, whether you talk about blood bag labels, intelligent blood bag labels, or whether you're transporting specimens within the healthcare facility, and Thomas will touch base on that. We saw reflexes coming to as part of an acquisition, and this is around workforce management. So now your frontline workers, we're starting to analyze them as to how do we enable shifts within the frontline workers. So we went over into adaptive vision. So this is computer vision. We started to bring this into our portfolio. Fetch robotics. Then we went into intuitive, and we're going to cover that, you know, how we're starting to look at machine learning and artificial intelligence. And lastly, we went into computer vision, which will look at what we call machine vision at the moment. But you see the evolution starting from a hardware-centric, going into a solution evolution, and then to a solution software-centric organization. What those acquisitions that we have made from, I would say, 2017 right up to about 2022, we have just launched our new software capabilities, which we will be driving into the market. This will be called Work Cloud. We've got Work Cloud Communication, Work Cloud Workforce, Work Cloud Inventory, and Work Cloud Demand. We're starting to see this come together. So we're not just becoming providing the hardware. We're now starting to see software. How do we communicate between staff or frontline workers in all sorts of industries? So you're starting to see the evolution happening. And with that, we are providing our partners with that capabilities to evolve further into the market itself. All right, so some of the key industries that we serve, we do serve, as I said, you know, most industries. We've got a lot of focus on retail, warehouse, manufacturing. Healthcare is big. Healthcare is growing. Digitalization in healthcare is growing. In Africa, we're seeing a lot of that happening. A lot of aid is coming into the country or into the continent that is enabling organizations to start to go forward. We see transport and logistics, you know, the e-commerce platforms that are driving transport and logistics, you know, for the demand. We see field operations becoming more and more relevant in the markets because you've got, you know, utilities companies wanting to do meter reading, digitizing that process, wanting to use augmented reality to go into a transformer and say, you know, look at the transformer and having an engineer that is sitting at the head office, giving them the capability to inform the operator of what they need to be doing. So you're starting to see digitization happening on those forefronts. So yes, we are not only known for our core products, which is scanning, printing, and mobile devices. I just want to talk a bit about our locationing solutions. And I think this is quite a good story to tell. Every year we get the NFL, which is a US-based football association, approach us. They've signed a multi-year contract with Zebra. We do the player tracking. So we have enabled over 3,000 players that have been tracked. We work with Wilson, the ball manufacturer, sporting goods manufacturer. We've been able to put a penny-sized sensor into the ball itself. So now what we're doing is we're now tracking the players across the field. We are now starting to utilize that data in whether they want to use it for the media organizations, whether they want to use it for gaming or gamification, as you would see it. But most importantly, it's used by the teams itself. So what we're seeing here is Zebra Sports providing those solutions through those environments. So we were approached by the NFL and we decided to develop the solution for them. It's similar to when we are working with organizations like Walmart in the US. They will come to us with a problem, a business problem, and they'll say, could you guys look into this problem for us and see how we can better manage it? There were instances where they came to us and they said, we needed more information. In the earlier days, we needed our sales associates to have more information, and can we manufacture a device that they could wear, which will have the right information. So we created a smart badge for them. So it just shows that what we are doing in the market, we are able to innovate as quickly as possible to bring the right solutions to our partners. So I want to talk through a few of the verticals that we've been working through, and this is around our value drivers and how do we see it. And when you start to look at different verticals, for example, retail, associate back into healthcare, think about how you could look at it. I mean, in pharmacies, retail pharmacies. So what we're starting to look at the drivers in the value drivers in retail is around elevated customer experience. You're wanting to see how can you get most out of the worker. You're starting to look at smarter operations. You need to have connected workflows. These are very, very important within the retail sector. Optimize inventory, knowing what stock you have on the shelves at any given time. And when we start to talk about it, I can give you examples of Discount in South Africa, which is a pharmacy and a retailer which is utilizing a lot of zero equipment in different aspects of the business, whether it's utilizing new tablets in the front end, whether it's utilizing the information on the depositors. We're starting to manufacture point-of-sale scanners that have machine learning built in, that have vision capabilities. So if a person is now going and they're taking a price out of a cheaper item and putting it into a more expensive item, we have that ability now through this point-of-sale scanner to identify the product, to say, well, sorry, it's been marked, you cannot go through the point of sale because it's not the right product at the right price. So it stops the product immediately. So when you're starting to look at some of the investments that retailers are making, you're looking at Zebra Smart Lens. That's locating, it's a locating solution within a store. These are almost appliances that they put onto onto the ceilings of these retail stores, and they have the ability to track and trace product movements. And I'll give you a fine example. This was in 2017 when we were developing the product, and I was in Arkansas at the head office for Walmart, and they did a pilot of the Smart Lens product. They saw a pair of jeans which had RFID tags on it go in from the jeans or the apparel department, goes into the change room, and that same jeans goes straight out the door. And you could see the person went in and put 4 or 5 jeans on and walked out the door. So we had camera sensors, so camera lenses in those appliances that we had put up, and we were able to track and get the person's identification, and you could see the person wearing all 5 jeans. So it just shows you the level of innovation that's starting to come up. We start to look at work cloud communication. That is staff communication. We now have software capabilities to communicate within our devices with push to talk, or you could use it within Wi-Fi or GSM, depending on how you want to communicate. And this enables a manager or a group of people to have the same sort of communication, whether it's by text or voice. Task management, so we want to simplify and streamline tasks within the store. So through the devices now you can push down to say, well, you need to go clean up aisle 4, change spillage. So you're starting to see these sort of software being put into the devices itself, and the capabilities of providing the actionable insights, intelligence around the stock and staffing needs. And here's another solution that we do provide is around inventory visibility. So being able to bring out kits for retailers to start to do stock counts within stores. So we'll send it into them so that, and it alleviates the pressure of them from buying more devices, so we're providing a service to them. So we're starting to see this become more and more relevant in the markets. Moving on to healthcare, and we speak a lot, and we really hear a lot from Thomas around positive patient identification. Now, that is all the way from admission to discharge. And one of the value drivers there is reducing errors and instilling confidence. We look at clinical mobility, the connected frontline worker. So having devices in the hands of all staff, so we start to see nurses having the ability to communicate with each other, communicate with doctors, and having the right information in their hand. Looking at patient records, looking at tracking of samples or specimen trial samples. We start to look at real-time locationing and tracking, and this is becoming also quite relevant in the healthcare sector, because you want to start identifying and looking at utilization of equipment, looking at beds, identifying where is a drip stand or where is a wheelchair. So these technologies are becoming more and more relevant. We start to look at what sort of products that we look at, the workforce communication, being able to communicate between the frontline workers, whether it's doctors, whether it's operational staff, or nurses themselves. We look at RFID solutions, locating devices, specimens, tracking, looking at the tracking of caregivers and patients in specified areas. We're looking at locationing solutions, and I spoke about looking at where equipment is. We have cases where healthcare facilities do not know where's wheelchairs, or where's the toute scans, or where's beds, and these are not being utilized enough. Or now we're starting to put in Bluetooth technology, Bluetooth-enabled sensors into these equipment. So when a nurse was going past a room, that Bluetooth technology is able to track and trace that in that specific room what was there. So that's the type of technology that we are bringing out into the market. Looking at warehousing, and earlier we spoke, I think I was speaking to you around the warehousing facilities, and we start to think about pharmaceutical warehouses. How are we going to start to look at the value drivers there, from workflow, optimizing workflows through mobility, making sure that the workers have the right devices in their hand. We're starting to see real-time operational visibility, having the right information in the hands of all workers. And lastly, warehouse automation. Think about mundane tasks. How do we now start to automate that? We've got new technologies that we have brought out. It's not on this picture, but we start to look at fixed industrial scanning when it's on the production line. With fixed industrial scanning, we enable machine vision. Now we're starting to do quality assurance in these environments, and I'll speak about it a little more in the next slide. But when we start to look at the warehousing, how are we enabling automation? Through Fetch Robotics, we're able to bring out a new robot, AMRs that we call it, so it's automated, autonomous robots. We look at RFID solutions that's, knowing where inventory is, knowing where stock is, knowing where assets are. And once again, looking at a wide range of specific devices that we can provide in those areas. So, when we start to look at the manufacturing sector, and I think this is quite important, and associating it to the healthcare sector. We've got organizations like Pfizer coming and talking to us around quality assurance. How do we look at quality assurance of the files that are going through the production line? So that's the reason we're bringing high-end fixed industrial scanning with machine vision to enable them to look at quality assurance. Whether it's looking at how much of vaccines are put into a vial, so we are able to now read that, and it's a millisecond of that it's traveling on those conveyors that we need to capture it. So it just shows the type of equipment that they're looking at. Asset and facility management is becoming more and more relevant when we start to look at the manufacturing sector, and then traceability, knowing where assets are, knowing where products are, knowing where people are, and knowing where the product is at the same time. So you start to look at what investments are being made in the manufacturing sector. You start to look at communication, enabling workers to talk to each other. Network connect is quite important in those sorts of environments, because if there's a failure on the production line, when it comes to scanning or printing, you need to know when to stop the line. So now we're connecting directly into the industrial internet networks, their PLCs, and we're able to stop the production line so that you don't have any irregularities in product that is being scanned or printing that is being done on the production line itself. Machine vision I spoke about, because that's becoming more and more relevant where they're doing quality assurance, trying to automate tasks on the production line itself. RFID solutions, we speak about this here, all the time across all verticals, because that's how important it's becoming. Vivian and Cybernaptics has been putting a lot of focus and emphasis on that. Locating solutions and fixed industrial scanning is where a lot of investment is being made in these environments. Field operations, I spoke about it, where energy and utilities companies are wanting to know and optimize the asset utilization, understand what's happening in the field, locating every asset, making sure they are compliant in every sort of way, having the right information. An example of that is South Africa's largest electricity provider, which provides, not much anymore, but they utilize Zebra's devices, and they've been utilizing the devices since 2009, and the information that the device carries is unbelievable. There's 11 different applications that's riding on or being sitting on those devices, providing them with the right information. Last mile delivery, which is obviously being announced due to the rise or demand for e-commerce products, shopping online, and then obviously manufacturing. You're delivering from warehouse directly to stores, directly through to end users. You're starting to see these products being pushed out of the value drivers. And where the investments are being made, it's around RFID solutions. As you can see, a common theme around what we've been speaking about: communication, communicating, digitizing processes, And then obviously now a newer product, which is zebra dimensioning. So now we've got a flight in time sensor put into some of our devices where we can go over a box and we'll be able to do dimensioning. So what that enables is, if you think postcode employees now can go and they can do a dimensioning of a box, and they making sure that they know the size and how to pack it within it into the vehicle, but most importantly, the costing inquiry. So now we are bringing the right devices to them. And then public safety. This is getting more and more relevant, not only in the private and public sectors. We're starting to see how the digitization is starting to enhance processes. We're seeing a broad portfolio of already solutions coming into that sector. We're looking at the speed up in integration and operations, and how can we work with other manufacturers. For example, body cams, tasers. We're starting to see that become more and more relevant. And if you have to look at it, we're currently running a project with one of the departments in South Africa at the moment. That's why I said I'll be referring to a lot of referencing to projects that we do out to the market. And where a traffic officer used to go out and issue out a fine, or just think about it. Now all they have to do, using a zebra device, is scanning the driver's license, is scanning the disc on the vehicle, putting in the infringement, and issuing out a fine almost less than 2 minutes. It just shows digitization, how fast it's happening in the workplace. I know I'm hungry with that.
You have 5 minutes.
Okay. All right. So I just want to quickly take you through just a quick view of what Zebra's portfolio, the core portfolio, looks like. So you'll see that we provide on our print portfolio, we have our desktop printers, which are the small label printers. That is, obviously for space constraints, you're able to put it onto a small desktop. That's why hence a desktop, easy to use. We start to look at industrial printers. Our industrial printers, these are printers are so robust. There are certain printers in the portfolio, we sell them once, they don't break. We until the end of life. We've seen that happen so many times. That's what Zebra is known for, the reliability of those industrial printers. And then mobile printers. I spoke about the issuance of fines. Having a printer latch onto your belt, and you are able to do label printing, receipt printing on the go. We start to look at our scanning technologies, which we number one in the market. We've got general purpose scanners, which you'll see across the portfolio. We've got 2 of the scanners that are out in the back. We've got our ultra rugged scanners. Those scanners are used in industrial environments. That's the one that's highlighted in green. And those are the world's best scanners. You can scan through ice, water, and far distances as well. And then you've got the healthcare range, which I spoke about earlier, around the coatings of the actual device itself and so on. Looking at our mobile portfolio, it's quite a broad-based mobile portfolio, and it's not one size fits all. We have the right device for the right environments, the right budgets, the right applications. You start to see handheld devices. We are the #1 enterprise hardware manufacturer to work with Google. We create our own OS behind the scenes to work to recreate the Android for the enterprise. So we are able to support an OS. For Android users out here, after 2-3 years ago, your Android OS can be out of date. We can support an Android OS up to 10 years. So depending on how you want to utilize the devices, and you want to make sure that you want to ensure total cost of ownership on the device, and you wanting to keep it longer in the environments to protect your investments, we're able to support that. We have a team of developers that will develop security patches and send them down into the Zebra devices for you. We've got wearable devices. I spoke not one size fits all. So now you're thinking about hands-free applications where people need to use both hands. We're not putting mobile computers into their hand, that's put into the hands of the workers, enabling them to be more efficient in the workforce. Vehicle mounts. Vehicle mounts, you're starting to see, putting computers into vehicles. These are specified or specific vehicle-mounted computers. They've got ratings, going up to usage of over 50 degrees or minus 50 degrees in vehicles. So just different sorts of use cases. We'll start to look at our rugged portfolio of tablets. It's all around the performance of tablets. Tablets are built for different sorts of environments. So you're starting to see a lot of green plants coming around. So people wanting to remove paper, any sort of paper trails within your plants. They're looking at tablets to do so. So you've got to have the right tablets to work in those environments. You've got new working conditions. You've got, you're starting to see mining, oil and gas starting to digitize even more. They need the right sort of tablets, and we've got the portfolio to support them. RFID, as you said, we're number one, and we're starting to see the development of RFID in all sectors. In healthcare specifically, we're starting to work with hospital providers. When they're starting to build facilities, we're starting to put the infrastructure up into these facilities, and they are now starting to look at everything from boundary management, looking at utilities of assets, looking at patient tracking, looking at frontline nurse tracking. All of that is now being used through RFID. One use case we're currently working with a hospital group in South Africa that will open up very soon. They approached us looking for infrastructure, and now they've built the infrastructure into the facility itself. So you're starting to see these sorts of technologies becoming more and more relevant. Looking at supplies, that's quite important because RFID has been in the market for many years, 24, 25 years. But when it first started, I would just use an example of 2003. Back then, a label could cost up to about $20 to $25. That's costing cents. It's costing cents. And then when it comes to the different types of labels, we are looking into how can we put labels onto just about anything. If you have to look at a jar of paint, you have to worry about viscosity. So we are looking at how can we resolve that. So we manufacture and design labels as well. So if you've got a specific requirement around RFID labels, we'll have the ability to have a look into it, research it, and then provide you with the right sort of labels around that. Now, this is quite important because when we walk into facilities and we see the storage of equipment, trust me, it's almost like you see cords or power cables lying all over the place. You'll find workers hiding devices, workers who are not charged devices for them. So now we're trying to create a very unified way of storing, of charging, and making sure the devices are up to the right state to ensure that there's no downtime within the staff itself. So we created the cabinets, which you can see from the pictures. We've got cradle locks, so making sure that if you're coming with an employee card using the NFC, if the right employee is not touching their card, or touching the right device, they will not have to open the device for it. Or if the device is not charged to the right capacity, it will not open the device. So you're starting to see all of these new technologies coming up, giving the right visibility through to the users, making sure productivity is kept to its optimum. And then, I spoke about supplies, so not only on RFID, we do a lot of supplies, and if you've got a very unique requirement, we are more than happy to have a look at it. We've got, jewelry, jewelers coming to us and asking us, can we get labels, RFID labels that we want to put onto an earring? And we said, give us a chance to have a look at it. Sometimes it is possible, sometimes it's not possible. But where it is, we'll make sure that we have a look into it and work with our research and development team to provide that to that facilities. Yeah, so that's me in a nutshell. Thomas is going to cover the healthcare section for the day, and I think it's going to be quite an eye-opener. He shares a lot of industry trends, he shows the strategy, what we are doing, it shows the partnerships of some of the organizations that we are working with. I'm here today, so if you need any questions, if you need anything from me, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this interesting presentation. So as per our agenda, we will now have a coffee break, but...
If there are any questions first, we can take them.
Yeah,
but I just have to add that our jackets are not sponsored by Zebra.
No.